An overview of A Wrinkle in Time. A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline Longley. Is it Longell? Longell. A timeless science fantasy novel published in 1962 takes readers on an extraordinary journey with Meg Murray, her brother Charles Wallace, and their friend Calvin O'Keefe. The narrative seamlessly weaves elements of science fiction, fantasy, and spirituality as the trio traverses space and time to rescue Meg's father from the clutches of darkness. Longell's storytelling introduces readers to a captivating blend of imaginative realms, mysterious creatures, and profound themes of love and courage. Thanks, Almighty! Set against the backdrop of the early 1960s, a period marked by the space race and a growing fascination with science and exploration, A Wrinkle in Time reflects the cultural zeitgeist of its time. The novel challenged traditional norms of children's literature by incorporating scientific concepts into a fantastical narrative. The character of Meg Murray, with her relatability and intelligence, adds depth to the story, emphasizing the power of love as a force that can conquer the darkest challenges. Longell later wrote a whole series about the Murray family called the Time Fantasy series, including A Wind in the Door from 1973, A Swiftly Tilting Planet 1978, Many Waters 1986, and An Acceptable Time 1996. A Wrinkle in Time continues to be relevant in contemporary times, captivating new generations with its universal themes and imaginative storytelling. Furthermore, the novel has been adapted into various forms, including a 2018 film starring Storm Reed, Oprah Winfrey, and Reese Witherspoon. And most recently is a television series on Amazon, I think? I appreciate it, y'all. It was your first fantasy sci-fi read. Awesome! I love that. That's so cool. So let's talk about the themes, motifs, and symbols in the book. First of all, for the themes, we obviously have the struggle between good and evil. This theme is highlighted in almost every moment in the book, as well as in the clear distinction of every character. Anchoring the theme is the motif of darkness and light, where good is analogous to light and evil to darkness. In true protagonist fashion, Meg is fueled by her desire to see good win over evil, especially in the cases of Mr. Murray and Charles Wallace's capture by sinister forces. The swells of good in the story are characterized by warmth, brilliance, and even curiosity, as Meg learns with time what the true nature of goodness looks like through Mrs. Who, Mrs. Witch, and Mrs. Whatsit, and the many lessons they teach. Was it Disney? Okay, I think I'm getting it confused with Wheel of Time as the TV series, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay. This is teacher vibe. Oh my god, thank you, babe. Dukely, I would love to. That's amazing. Yeah, if you're new here, I used to be a high school English teacher, so I love writing, I love reading, I love knowledge in all of its many forms. Another theme in A Wrinkle in Time is the inadequacy of words. The theme of words and their inability to convey deep truths is an idea suggested through many moments in the story, but made especially obvious through the characterizations of Charles Wallace, Aunt Beast, and Mrs. Who. In the opening moments of the story, Meg and Mrs. Murray converse about the mysteries of Charles Wallace and the difficulty of understanding and describing him, as well as process the strange interactions with Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, Mrs. Witch, and Mrs. Who, sorry. Mrs. Witch and Mrs. Whatsit all communicate in different ways, but all three recognize the way human words often falter. Meg realizes through interactions with these characters that words are often inadequate to capture true understanding, and through this realization, she can surrender her need to know everything. Finally, our last theme, the triumphant power of love. Love is ultimately victorious over every evil in A Wrinkle in Time. In the beginning of the story, Calvin's interest in an affirmation of Meg sparks a journey of self-discovery and confidence in her, suggesting that even the seed of love can help one overcome great challenges. The triumph of love is presented throughout the story is anything but superficial, and the earnestness and depth in which the characters explore love signals the power love holds is pure and strong. I thought this was fascinating too because as a novel that was written in the 1960s, this very much mirrored to me one of my favorite movies. I don't know if anybody in chat's ever seen it, Interstellar, which if you don't know is a great sci-fi movie. It's incredible. The score is amazing. I love all of the actors that are in it. And the central theme is that like love can conquer all, which a lot of people didn't like in like a science fiction book. But I really enjoy it because sci-fi is supposed to be fantastical and not real, and making it about love kind of like with this novel too, with the fantasy and sci-fi elements, it makes it more akin to realism than we get in a lot of other stories. I love that. Yeah, from 1968. No, sorry, 1962. 1962. Up next are our motifs. Time, obviously. As the book title suggests, time is a motif that runs through the novel's entirety, as the main characters examine their own relationships with time and understand new conceptions of dimension and chronology. A tesseract, the concept around which is the central plot revolves, is itself a dimension of time and space, and it's the wrinkle in the book's namesake. Darkness and light is another motif. It's a pervasive element in the setting and plot of the story, utilized often in descriptions of the characters and their adventures. And finally, we have communication. The exploration of communication is evident in the novel's plot and character developments. The motif of communication is clearly threaded through many of the main characters and their relationships with diction, verbalization, and understanding. 1962, yeah. Me too. That was a really, really cool section. So it can be a little confusing, but the Tesseract is the fifth dimension, explained by Charles Wallace and Mrs. Whatsit. If the third dimension is a cube, okay, 3D, and the fourth dimension is time, then the fifth dimension is time squared, a shortcut of sorts through conventional understandings of time and space. When the characters travel through time, they tesser, which is a way of moving from one point to another that is shorter than a straight line. So, like they explain in many multiple movies. All right? So this is the plane, right? So instead of going from point A to point B, it's like that instead. Okay? The bending. The bending or wrinkling, as the title states, sets the plot in motion and is the impetus for Mr. Murray's classified mission. Mr. and Mrs. Murray were studying the idea of a tesseract before his disappearance, and Mrs. Whatsit shocks Mrs. Murray upon her arrival by assuring her there is such a thing as a tesseract. Junie, hi! Loki? I remember reading an article interviewing the author where she talked about writing for child audiences and how she writes it like it was to a child. Also, that this story inspired a lot of other fantasy authors. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because if this was the first of its kind, being able to pinpoint not even authors, but like movies and TV shows in general, the idea of a lot of what was based in this novel for plot devices and stuff like that, hugely inspired. Next, let's talk about the motifs. So the dark thing / the black thing. It's a cold, sinister force that is only visible once the children have traveled from Earth to the other planets. The dark thing is one of the few symbols in the novel that collectively represent evil, the true antagonist of the story, which the main characters battle against. When Meg travels or tessers through the dark thing, she experiences it like vile fragility, which nearly kills her on her second journey through when escaping how do I pronounce this? Kamazots. Alongside it, the man with the red eyes, and other elements of the planet, the dark thing represents evil, pervasive, yet mysterious presence in the novel's world. They're a very interesting mathematical physical concept, so the way they make it approachable is great. Absolutely, absolutely. Fortinbras, another symbol. It's the Murray family's beloved big black dog, symbolizes home, strength, and stability, anchoring the beginning and ending of the story with his presence. The dog, a setter greyhound mix, has been an important part of the Murray family since Mr. Murray found him on the doorstep and took him in. Fortinbras's gleeful celebration of the family's reunion signals warmth, rest, and the truth that everyone has finally made it home. Finally, we have Mr. Who's spectacles. They symbolize understanding and clarity, and they are Meg's key to rescuing her father from the mysterious prison cell. The understanding is mirrored in the spectacles, which would commonly be seen as an indication of weakness, but are instead a source of great power in a time of need. So, this is normally when I talk about probing book club questions, what you thought, and etc. Okay? I would love to know your initial reactions of reading this book, how many stars you would give it out of 5 stars. But since this was our topic for our banned books month, I would like to talk about why it's so controversial. Because I think for a lot of people, they're like, this is a children's novel. It's a fantasy, and there are scientific elements, but like, why is this a banned book? Since its publication in 1962, A Wrinkle in Time has become one of the most frequently banned or challenged books. People have argued that it's too complicated for children, and earlier critics disapproved of its plucky female protagonist. Among conservative Christians, one of the biggest objections has historically been the way that the book's author mixes science and religion. A Wrinkle in Time tells the story of Meg Murray, a girl who travels through time and space to save her father from evil forces. Longle, an Episcopalian, imbued her novel with religious elements and ideas. Yet at the time, many Christians viewed them as unorthodox. She was engaged in this project of revisioning Christianity pretty much like C.S. Lewis was with the Chronicles of Narnia. It was a vision of Christianity as a form of science and science as a form of search for spirituality. Which is really fascinating because this is not the first time that revisioning Christianity has been like a controversial pick, but it's more recent than some of the other books. So as an example, I don't know how many of you have read this. High schools, probably, maybe some AP classes. This is more like a college novel, but put a 1 in the chat if anybody in here has read Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost. So this is basically a creationism revisioning story. And who wrote that? Milton? Is it Milton? And it talks about Lilith. It talks about so many things that a lot of people, even now, when they cite things from the Bible, they're not actually citing them from the Bible. They're citing it from Paradise Lost. Melville? Milton? It was Milton? Okay. So, very, very interesting to have that like comparison for this book, right? The idea that science and religion can coexist may seem less controversial today. But in the decades following the book's release, many U.S. Christians believed there was a conflict between contemporary scientific findings and the Bible's vision of the world, particularly as astronomers and physicists learned more about the cosmos. The author felt differently. She believed that there is overlap between science and spirituality and that new Christianity would be fully compatible with what modern science tells us about the universe. To her, newly discovered parts of the universe didn't represent a challenge to the Bible. Rather, she viewed them as part of God's creation. A Wrinkle in Time also sparked religious controversies because of the type of characters included. 3 of the main characters, Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch, are at once spiritual, angelic, and kind of witchy. This led some to claim that the book encouraged witchcraft or heretically conflated Christianity with the occult. One scene in particular, which depicts Jesus, Gandhi, Einstein, and the Buddha standing together against the forces of evil, offended Christians who thought the author was equating these four figures. I don't think I need to read the rest of this part. Anyway, isn't that fascinating? Isn't it? So that's the reason it's one of the most commonly banned books. I couldn't get over that. I really couldn't. Yeah. I have bad memory. Don't trust me. Hey, your memory is great. Hi, Mia. How are you? The conflict of witchcraft and religion really gets people mad. Yeah. And to this day, it's still the same people going after books similar to A Wrinkle in Time, talking about, you know, science or religion together, or hell, at this point, even different views that we're still seeing now with banned books. What they did with Paradise Lost, they also did with the Divine Comedy. They think they're quoting the Bible, but it's actually just biblical fan fiction. Exactly. Which is why when we talked about fan fiction before, like, this is not a new thing. Like, fan fiction has been around for centuries. It's only that I think in terms of pop culture, it didn't get well known until the days of Tumblr, like in the early 2000s. Oh, the Divine Comedy is a great read. Great read. It blows your mind you're not religious or have read the Bible. Yeah. Dante, yeah. Dante. Yep. A lot of people know it for Dante's Inferno, but the entire omnibus is called the Divine Comedy. Has that been going well, Mia? So yeah, let me know what y'all thought about the book. I don't have anything else right now. I thought it was really great. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I would like to reread it at some point when I'm in like a better headspace. But I thought it was a fantastic read. It was my first time reading it, in fact. I don't know if I want to read the rest of the series, but I thought it was really fascinating. I thought it was a good read. I didn't have a hard time engaging with it, but I definitely was not in the mindset of being ready to read it. The Bible has been translated and edited hundreds of times. There's no way the book today is like the original. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. With the things that they take out, the things that they put in. One of my college classes that I wish that I could have taken because it was so fascinating to me, I had to take another class to fulfill my credits for that. But it was the Bible in fiction. So, like, reading through it with a different lens than coming at it from the point of, like, Christianity. I was really interested in that, especially being brought up in the church myself. So I would like to do that at some point in my life. You liked it. You don't normally get into sci-fi stuff. Interesting. Did you like it because of the way it was written? Did you like it because of, like, the plot things that were used? Again, I do really think it was written for children, so maybe it was much more, like, approachable versus some of the harder sci-fi stuff. Because I like mid-road sci-fi. That's what I call it. Not Kip sci-fi. I've listened to the audiobook multiple times of their favorite book that they talked about yesterday, Hyperion. It's a little bit out of my realm of scope. Not your usual read, but you liked it. Whole roller coaster with marking papers. Oh, I know. You're killing it, though. Mostly the audiobook would probably have had a better time with the book. You read it instead of listening to it. So fair. So fair. The beginning, I was like, what was going on? But a couple of chapters in, I was like, oh, this is actually good. It's different to the other books you've read, but you really liked it. Yeah. I think, too, for the book calling Mrs. Who, Witch, and What's It Witches is interesting because they aren't. So the religious witchcraft bit isn't true. No, exactly. It's people, once again, misconstruing what the book is about or hearing from other people that have misconstrued the book. I mean, a big basis of book bans is that people have not read the source material, or they have, and they came away with a completely different notion of what the novel is actually about. And this could be going for anything. I did Paris. I thought it was pretty good. You like the theme wise, though? You really like Mrs. Who and Company? Yeah. You think it was the plot itself? Being written for children made it easier to get into. Which, listen, it's sometimes true, sometimes not. It depends on when it was written and who's writing it and the subject matter. We read last year, the year before, The Secret Garden, which is a great book. Mostly. Some of the things did not translate well with time. Some more like racist elements. However, the book to me was less approachable than this one. And it could have just been the writing. And I feel like this is much more approachable than like C.S. Lewis's writings as well. Alice in Wonderland, etc. It was a neat read to read this again as an adult. Couple of chapters. Yeah, the beginning was very like, okay, you're getting dropped in the middle of things, which is true if you do read sci-fi novels. It is true. You're in a reading slump, but you like the chapters you did read. You also might go back when you're in a better headspace. Yeah, and that's okay too. That's totally okay too. We have to understand things from the past, but certainly not condone them. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I hate using I feel like sometimes this is like a scapegoat, but it's like, it was from a different time is so true because I still think that there's important things to get out of, as an example, The Secret Garden and the things that they talk about, like abandonment, classism, loss and grief. So I feel like we can still take that away while like not condoning the parts of the book that like are clearly bad. And it's very nuanced and there are areas of grayness and it's still important. Still important. The androgynous description of Mrs. Who must not have hit well for conservatives. No, that definitely did not. It definitely did not. Chat, this was really, really fun. Thank you for doing this with me. Let me make sure that I update our command for the next book club. Let me end this event. End the event. So our next one for June is our Pride pick, and it is called Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. And it's basically like a queer sci-fi novel that is gonna be really, really fun. I think this will be another one that a lot of people will really enjoy. And as always, if you want to sign up for our book clubs, hop into the Discord. It's not sub only. And I have this listed for June 30th, which is a Monday. All right, let me see if I've updated this correctly. Yay! June 30th. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, Crafty, that's awesome. And as I mentioned before, so if you do ! Book Club, I have our playlist of all of our other previous discussions if you ever want to go through them at any time. This is a playlist from my VOD channel. So I'm going to end up putting this one down there. So it just started from 3 months ago when I started keeping track of them. So I have Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. We have Sunrise on the Reaping, and then we'll have this one. So I don't think I was keeping all of them before on the VOD channel. But that's what we'll do. We are now spoiler-free. Are we ready to get into The Sims? Are we ready?